Hey everybody, Tom Carnell here. Carnell Knowledge, a show I do here twice a week on YouTube, Monday and Friday, and I also do every day. I do a couple of shorts, all of which I review or recommend a bunch of books and movies and records. Today I got some cool stuff for you, man. Let's see. Let's start with some movies. First thing I found on Tubi, which I thought was just, I read the title and immediately clicked play. 1966, it is called DAININJUTSU EIGA WATARI, aka WATARI Ninja Boy, directed by Sadao Funatoka, who did one of the Tonga Sazen movies. Stars Yoshinari Kaneko, who was in Masked Ninja Akage, Chiyoki Konma, Kunio Murai, who's in Godzilla versus Gigan. Has to do with two ninja clans who are conned into fighting each other for years by their evil leaders. Watari, a small, hard-as-nails ninja boy, saves the day. Based on a manga by Sanpai Shirato. There's a sequel, I guess, called The Magic Sword of Watari. It's about a kid who seemingly has otherworldly powers. He's able to disappear here and reappear there, all the while carrying a gigantic axe on a rope. Like, that's a thing. Essentially, it's a kid's film with martial arts overtones, but there are some cool effects for the time. Things like someone being mobile, holding on while the background whizzes by. It's very, very sort of anime and manga. That said, the story can be a little confusing, but stick with it. You know, it's a kid's film, so it's not going to get really like convoluted. A delightful little diversion, nothing of much consequence, but still fun. I recommend this for all ages. It is subtitled, so the kids are going to probably need to be able to read, but the plot's pretty simple. And yeah, it's super fun. I don't even know how to cut it. It's called Watari Ninja Boy. Yeah, it's just one of those things that you want to put on and just kind of go with it. If you like Godzilla films and if you like, you know, that kind of stuff, you're going to love this movie. It was, I found it an absolute delight. I put it on pretty late at night and it kept me up and I was just smiling the entire time. Let's see, next movie from 1963. It's called OSS 117 DECHAINE, aka OSS 117 is Unleashed. It's directed by Andre Hunebel. Stars Kerwin Matthews, who was in The Seventh Voyage of Sinbad and The Three Worlds of Gulliver. Nadia Sanders is in this from 8½, and The Giants of Thessaly, and Irina Demick, who was in The Longest Day. There was a whole series of these things. This one has to do with an American spy who disappears after scuba diving, doing some scuba diving reconnaissance in Corsica. The Secret Service sends an agent with a codename OSS 117. It's a really early version of the Euro spy genre. The first movie with this character, although there would be many more. Dr. No came out 1 year earlier, and that kind of launched a lot of these kind of things. The director did 3 of these, the OSS films. It plays, if anyone remembers Danger Man, which was a TV series that ran from 1960 to 1966, this resembles more of that than it does like a Bond picture, but lighter, wittier than most European spy thrillers. The whole series would later be parodied in the Jean Dujardin films, which are fantastic. But this one's filmed in stupendous black and white. Very much a low-rent Bond. Matthews is left pretty much on his own. No money in his pocket. No gadgets up his sleeve. You know, it's just his wits and his good looks, I guess. There's a fun film score by Michel Magnier. Nadia Sanders is beautiful throughout the film. And things proceed pretty predictably, culminating in even a secret lair on an island. There's a lot of what I call James T. Kirk Kung Fu. And, but yeah, all in all, an enjoyable early spy flick. Matthews is likable, and the plot of the film had yet to fall into that silliness that happened during the Roger Moore era. I really like this film. OSS 117 is Unleashed. It's on Tubi for free. Do I recommend it? Yeah, absolutely. It was fun. It's not anything of consequence, but it was fun. Let's see. Up next, now this was something. 1973, the title is KAIDAN KASANE-GA-FUCHI, aka The Depths, aka The Ghosts of Kasane Swamp. It's directed by Nobuo Nakagawa, stars Katsugo Wakazugi, Takashi Wada, Noriko Kitsawa, and Tetsuo Tanba. So it has to do with a blind masseur who visits a samurai because in the past he had given him or lent him some money. So it had been a while, so the masseur goes over there and says like, hey, yo, you owe me money and I'd like to have it back, please. There's a disagreement over a game of Go, the Japanese board game. The samurai was cheating and the blind guy caught it because he has a mind that remembered every move. The samurai kills him in anger, and then his servant dumps his dead body into Kasane Swamp. However, the ghost of the masseur returns to haunt the samurai who kills his wife by mistake and then goes to the swamp and drowns himself. 20 years later, so that's like the whole beginning first act, jumps forward 20 years, and the masseur's daughter unknowingly falls in love with the samurai's son, who has been brought up to be a servant. That part is more love story than anything else, but it's got a banger of an ending, and I'm not even going to spoil it for you. The director would revisit elements of the story in a film from 1959 called The Ghost of Yotsuya, which I'm sure I'm going to get around to at some point. The original story is called Shinkai KASANE-GA-FUCHI. Studio made this film twice. It's very dark and moody, very atmospheric, just over an hour in length. I saw it on YouTube. But it's an unsung classic of Japanese horror. I had never heard anyone talk about this, and it was fantastic. Some will find the proceedings of the first act to be a little slow, but boy, man, once it picks up in that last act, whew, good stuff. Good, creepy, really eerie stuff. Genuinely unnerving, especially for the year it was made, 1957. But I would say it's a must-watch for fans of ghost stories and Japanese horror in general. This is fantastic. I wasn't even aware. First of all, in the last episode, I want to say I talked about Bakaneko, which is like the transformed cat films, which were a number. And I had no idea that there was all of these like samurai ghost stories. And not just all Kobayashi's Kwaidan. There's a ton of them. And just finding them is hard because they're unsung and not a lot of people know about them, much less do many services carry them. But everyone I've seen has been just absolutely terrific. And I'm sure I'm going to get to a bunch more as the weeks and go on. Let's see, speaking of another film, this one I absolutely love. 1957, it's called Monolith Monsters, directed by John Sherwood, who directed the Creature from the Black Lagoon sequel, The Creature Walks Among Us. Stars Grant Williams, who was in The Incredible Shrinking Man, Lola Albright, who was in a comedy called Lord Love a Duck, and Les Tremaine is in this from War of the Worlds and North by Northwest. Even Troy Donahue shows up for like a second. Has to do with a meteor that lands on Earth, and when it shatters, there's all these shards of this black kind of obsidian rock that when it comes in contact with water, it grows and grows and grows. If it comes in contact with people, it turns them to stone. The town of San Angelo, which is featured in the film, is actually the Universal backlot, specifically the Courthouse Square, which you probably know from Back to the Future. Character actor William Shallard, who is the father on the Patty Duke Show and has a ton of movies on his IMDb, great character actor, does an uncredited role in this film. Paul Frees, the voice of the Haunted Mansion, does the narration. A scene of this was used in They Live, I had read in some of my wanderings. The plot is very similar to Gremlins. very kind of similar to Gremlins in that creatures that come in contact with water multiply and cause havoc. Again, I saw this as this was a staple on Bob Wilkins' creature features back when I was a kid. And man, it's a silly picture, but it has a very treasured place in my heart. Extremely low budget, but pretty effective. Jack Arnold, who did films like It Came from Outer Space, Creature from the Black Lagoon, and The Incredible Shrinking Man. He wrote the script for this. It's a unique monster, one of the few that are based solely on a chemical reaction, and I thought that was kind of interesting. But the film has good pacing, an interesting concept. It's acted well, it's directed well. What's not to like? Safe for kids. I mean, it aired in its entirety on television. But yeah, Monolith Monsters is available on Tubi for free, so you should go check that out. And then our last film is something called Squadra Antiscippo, aka The Cop in Blue Jeans from 1976, directed by Bruno Corbucci, who wrote the Django film, and he directed Squadra Anti-Gangsters, for which the great Italian prog rock band Goblin did the score for. Stars the great Thomas Millian, who's fantastic in everything. He was in Traffic. He was in a film I covered here called The Cynic, the Rat, and the Fist. He was also in a film I covered here called The Tough Ones. Jack Palance is in this, who was in Shane and City Slickers. And Maria Rosario Omaggio stars as the Mall. It's about an undercover cop that finds and arrests a series of purse snatchers until he discovers an American at the top of an evil ring of thieves. Thomas Millian's character, Nico Giraldo, is heavily inspired by Serpico, if you're familiar with that Al Pacino movie from 1973. This is part of an 11-film series, which is crazy because I haven't seen them all, but I'm willing to bet that they all have pretty much the same plot. Begins with a guy taking a dump in the street while a group of Asian people are photographing him and laughing. Meanwhile, a van pulls up and absconds with all of the Asian people's luggage. Very much a product of his time, mid-70s. As usual, Thomas Millian chews up every bit of scenery that is offered to him. Fight choreography is what I'm going to call the James T. Kirk school of Kung Fu, where a chop to the neck would lay just about anybody out. Super funky and groovy score by Guido and Maurizio De Angelis, which I looked up on Spotify. And there's an entire 2-disc set of this stuff, and it's very, very cool. Jack Palance mostly just chews his cigarettes and scowls and grumbles his way through a bunch of tough guy lines. He doesn't have much to do until the very end. It's violent in the way that a lot of 70s action films were. And the love interest looks like a combination of, looks kind of like Kate Bush, but acts like Valerie Harper from Rhoda. And their attraction, her and Millian's attraction together makes zero sense. That all said, this is one of the more interesting police attachés. You know how I love my police attachés. But I recommend it for fans of people who like Italian crime dramas, Thomas Millian films, and movies like Serpico, Dirty Harry, French Connection, and the old TV show Starsky and Hutch. Moving on to books. This is a book that I had picked up years ago. It's this here. It's called In the Midst of Winter by Mary Jane Moffat. It is a collection of breathtaking, indispensable poetry, fiction, letters, and diaries of the world's greatest artists writers on the subject of grief and the nature of grief. In this collection, loss finds a voice, or several voices, in poetry and in writing, and some of it is the writers themselves sort of contending with grief in their lives, and being writers, they put a lot of their thoughts down on page. Here are James Agee recording the shock of his father's death, William Shakespeare making poetry of Cleopatra's grief, the biblical wisdom of the Book of Lamentations, the psychological acuity of Marcel Proust. Here are mourners from classical Rome to 11th century China, to the Paiute Indians, to present-day Ireland. Anne Rice's husband writes powerfully in this book. Arranged in sections that correspond to the stages of mourning. This is a volume whose breadth and resonance make it invaluable and utterly unique. Excerpts are relatively short, so they're easy to read, and then you can put the book down and sort of ponder that, which is good, because I'll tell you now, this stuff gets heavy, really heavy. So if you're interested in that, and you wouldn't want to read just some really raw, powerful writing in the midst of winter, I highly recommend it. I found it on Amazon. You can get copies there. But it's one of those things that's around. But I've had my copy for years, and it is just fantastic. I love that. I'm predisposed to liking that stuff, having worked in mortuaries for a long time. But yeah, just good stuff all the way around. All right, let's lighten it up. Talking about some records. Let's start here. 2021, the group is called Secret of Elements. The album is called CHRONOS. The band is a self-taught multi-instrumentalist from northern Germany. This is more of that film score in search of a film stuff I talk about a lot here on the show. Lush, intimately orchestrated, very melancholic. It could easily serve as like like if they were to do another Blade Runner sequel, or even a Studio Ghibli film. It's very light and very lovely stuff. Fragile sounding blend of contemporary classical and electronic music. Just absolutely lovely. Airy and intimate, playful and melodic. This is a fantastic record. I was very, very enamored of this. It reminded me of things like Paul Schumacher, Joe Zan, Laura Mazzotto. Reminded me of Vangelis, Penguin Cafe, Max Richter, Rival Consoles, Hauschka, and Philip Glass. Again, Secret of Elements. The album is called CHRONOS. Let's see. Moving on to something a little less, a little more frenetic. From 2009, Cuca Teixeira, Kiko, Loureiro, and Thiago Espirito Santo did a record under the name Neural Code. Cuca Teixeira is a Brazilian drummer, played with the likes of Michael Brecker, George Benson, Lee Konitz, Scott Henderson, and Frank Gambale. Thiago Espirito Santo is a Brazilian bassist who played with Chris Potter and Frank Gambale. And here's the curveball. Kiko Loureiro is a Brazilian guitarist who played with Angra and Megadeth. Is this a metal now album? No, not at all. It's more of a jazz fusion record, but it is a burner, just an absolute burner. All three musicians are widely considered to be some of the best in the world, not just Brazil, but in the world. It blends rock, jazz, and traditional Brazilian rhythms, and it just cooks the whole from beginning to end. Everyone's playing at the top of their game. The phrasing is crisp and tight, and man, is it good. I recommend it for guitar enthusiasts and fans of musicians who, again, are working at the top of their game. Just absolutely great stuff. Reminded me of things like Liquid Tension Experiment, Billy Cobham, Tribal Tech, Garage Mahal, and at times like Alan Holdsworth, Frank Gambale, and then those probably a little Planet X thrown in there as well. Good stuff. Neural Code, man, Kiko Loureiro has a couple of solo albums, and those are equally good, and I'll probably get to those at some point. Let's see, moving on. 2005, the artist Rei Harakami. The album is called Lust. Lush hypnotic blend of ambient, down-tempo, and left-field techno. Although the techno doesn't sound right in my mouth as I say it, but it was part of the press release, and I just, maybe, kinda, it's more quiet than that. My dog. Rhythm-driven and yet still quiet and at times somber, ambient dub mixed with mellow, melodic IDM. Kind of playful and energizing. Just a fantastic electronic album that doesn't sound cold or alien. Reminded me of things like Ryoichi Sakamoto, Susumu Yokota, Boards of Canada, Jan Jelinek, and Ken Ishii. And it's great. It was really great. And it prompted me to pick up a couple of other of Harakami's records. They're just good stuff. Again, if you go to the description of this video, you will find links to all of this stuff. Click on it and take a listen for yourself. Let's see. Our next record from 2002. The band is called Etro Anime. The album is called See the Sound. It's described as a smooth, atmospheric blend of trip-hop, down-tempo, and drum and bass layered with deep house and soul. Features sultry, breathy female vocals that are backed by a mix of programmed electronic beats and live instrumentation like bass guitar and sax. This is a very adult-sounding record. I don't mean adult like porn. I mean adult like grown up. It's beautiful. It's so good. I was so happy when this came on, and every song just kept getting better and better and better. Lovely and sophisticated are words I would use to describe it. Perfect to play in the house just before going out. You want a little peace before the frenetic of being outside. I also found it to be perfect to read and relax to. Just a delightful record. It reminded me of things like Solstice. It reminded me of Estero, Sade, Chibomata. It really reminded me of Everything But the Girl, Portishead, 07, Bittersweet, Groove Theory, Robin S., and Robert Miles. And it was delightful. Just a delightful record. I don't want to say too much about it because I don't want to oversell it. Just go click on the link and you'll see what I'm talking about. And then our last record is it just came out maybe a month ago, from 2026. The artist is named Nili Bosch. The album is called Eventide. She is a guitar player who has performed and recorded with the likes of Danny Elfman. She played with Cirque du Soleil for a long time. She played with Death Clock, Tony McAlpine, Paul Gilbert, Andy Timmons, Guthrie Govan, and the Aristocrats. She played with Stu Hamm, Alphonso Johnson, and the Queen, Jennifer Batten. I need to cover a Jennifer Batten record. Jennifer did an interview with us for a project we did back in the early stages of her career. She's a monster, man. Just so good. Let's see. Nili Brosh, though. She was born in Rishon LeZion in Israel. Attended Berklee School of Music. Her and her brother opened for Yngwie Malmsteen. So, that's something. I don't imagine Yngwie hires slouches. And good. Yeah. Let's see. This is very much a guitar-forward record. It's not a shredding record. It's more melodic than that. But she's a great guitar player. Crisp, smooth, and articulate is the way I would describe her playing, with soaring melodic phrasing, heavily textured, kind of a spacey atmosphere. Again, it's not a shredder record, but it's a burner. She's very meticulous in her choice of phrasing and her choice of melody. Recommended for guitar enthusiasts and fans of people who like to hear people who are virtuosos. Reminded me of the aforementioned Andy Timmons, Guthrie Govan, Greg Howe, Nuno Bettencourt, Steve Vai, Eric Johnson. Throw in some Steve Lukather, John Petrucci, and we're going to throw in Jennifer Batten again, and not just because she's female. This was a great record. Very, very cool. The playlist in the description has some real music videos, which I didn't know they made anymore, and it shows her, you get more of a sense of her as an artist, not just as a guitar player. Excuse me, but it's fantastic. Just absolutely fantastic. And I think that's going to do it. Again, everyone, please check out the other shows that I have on this channel. Please check out the shorts that I do every day. I'm trying to funnel a lot of things that may have fallen by the wayside or slipped through the cracks, or people aren't talking about it. It seems like everybody on YouTube is talking about the same stuff over and over and over again, and it's just in my ass the whole time. I follow a lot of people, and I don't want to talk smack, but it's come on, man. It's a big world out there, and show me something I've never heard of that doesn't sound like the same old, same old. Also, I have a new book coming out on June 15th called Open Late. It is a short story collection in a portmanteau format. So if you've ever seen the movie Tales from the Crypt, where there's an overall story, and then within the story, people tell stories. The whole book is kind of an ode to story. It's about a group of people that are in a diner in the middle of the desert during a rainstorm, and there's nothing to do. And so as people come in and out getting cigarettes or food or using the bathroom, everyone has a story to tell. And that's kind of the structure by which a bunch of stories, and the stories are vastly different. They're not your typical. Usually I try to stay away from that stuff. So I hope you're enjoying everything I'm doing here on the channel. Please subscribe. That does me a world of good. I'm trying to get to a point that I can help the channel to grow and more people, not just for me, because who gives a shit about me, but I'm mostly interested in showing people things that they haven't heard, that they're not getting just bludgeoned with on other channels. And if there's something that strikes your interest, again, go to the description. You will find links to trailer films, or someplace the full movie, the Amazon page for the book, and then again, full YouTube playlist for all of the records. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for sticking with me this far. But please do me a favor, do me a solid, as they say. Subscribe to the channel and like the video, and that would help me out. I will see you next week. I'm now doing 2 shows a week instead of 3, just because the workload got too big. But the shorts are there, so check those out. Again, I'm very grateful to you all. Thank you, and we'll see you again.